Good evening and a very warm welcome to NTV's My Teacher. I'm Sunaina Iqbal and I'm glad to be back in the studio. Let's welcome my co-host, our parenting and youth development specialist, Dr. Sangeet Ibrahim, to the show. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Sunaina. It's a pleasure and an honor to be back in the studio, to be back with the NTV team again. It's been a long break, but I'm really looking forward to being back in the show and adding value to all our viewers.
Right. Doctor, would you want to explain that new look of yours?
We had gone for Hajj and taking your hair off is one of the rituals of Hajj, and that's why it's off, and I hope I look cooler than ever before.
Absolutely. In certain stories and novels, we come across such characters which you cannot deem as a villain or a hero. They exhibit both shades, sometimes a little bit of white and sometimes a little bit of black. Today's discussion revolves around such a character, such a phenomenon called the social media. Whether it is for good or for bad, the debate still continues. In any discussion with parents, we come across this one short question. Is social media bad for our children? And for obvious reasons, parents cite so many examples, they come up with so many reasons to cement their belief. One is they say that social media adversely affects the academic performance of a child, which is true to an extent, but we cannot generalize here. Then they say that it affects the emotional well-being of a child, which is true to a great extent, because as we know, a child who's immersed in his virtual world is totally blind to what's happening in the physical world around him. He is isolating or alienating himself from the rest of the world, and this makes him apathetic to what's happening around. And trust me, that's a very dangerous situation to be in. And then, of course, these kids get dragged into unhealthy, unwanted relationships, which the parents unfortunately come to know of only during the climax, when something untoward happens. So one question that parents often ask is, should we ban social media from our children's lives? Ban being the it word now. What do you think, Doctor? Should we ban it completely?
I think you've stumped me with the first question itself. I don't think banning anything is a solution. Of course, it has to be regulated. We have to weigh the pros and the cons, and we have to take the right decision. Make sure that our children have access to social media at the optimal level.
Right.
Now, when I say banning is not practical, particularly in the West, well, it has not really happened in this part of the world, but it's definitely going to hit our show soon. Social media and the internet is actively used for academic programs. One initiative is called flipped learning. Okay, this is something that we've always been advocating. It has happened in the West, and slowly teachers and schools are adopting it here. What's happening is, typically in a classroom, a teacher would be lecturing, right? The teacher would be standing and talking, and the kids would be blank sometimes, because you know the attention spans of kids nowadays. True. Now, real learning happens at home, where the kid is back, he's alone, he doesn't have his friends or his teachers, and when he tries to attempt his homework, that's when parents understand. You know, I'm sure our parents would connect with what we are saying, because the kids would be blank, and the parents would be asking, what were you doing in class?
Right,
you know,
right,
and of course they were not listening in class. So real learning happens at home when the parent gets involved, and the parent tries to teach the student. But then the problem is that parent problems are subject node parent, you know, or probably he doesn't like the subject. All that gets passed on to the child.
Okay.
So now what they're doing is, the teacher is shooting a video of himself or herself using a standard phone and uploading this video onto YouTube. Okay. So what the kids do is, at home they sit and watch these videos. So and the
That's
magan
after they
parayunna
come back from
no
school.
no. Suppose what the teacher does is what the teacher is planning to teach the next day, the subsequent day, a video is shot and it's uploaded on YouTube.
Right.
അപ്പം ഞാൻ മകനോട് ചോദിച്ചപ്പോൾ what he says is, you know, it's really cool. I can pause it, you know, if I want to watch the video again, I can watch it all over again. So the lecturing part happens through the video. Now what happens in school? Once they go back, what the teacher does is, you know, they're put in a group and they're given problems. ഇതിൻ്റെ advantage എന്താ വെച്ചാൽ teacher can directly see whether the kid is able to solve the problem or not.
Yes,
And they talk to them,
right.
talk between themselves, and they solved it. It's called flipped learning, and this has made significant improvements in the academic performance of students. അപ്പം നമ്മൾ ഇന്നിവിടെ ഇരുന്നുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മളിത് ബാൻ ചെയ്യാന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ you know, it's definitely going to arrest the development of the child with respect to academic performance. Facebook learning is a huge concept. What happens is, you know, let's say the teacher is teaching about Second World War. So what the teacher does is കുട്ടികളെ ഗ്രൂപ്പ്സ് ആക്കിയിട്ട് സെപ്പറേറ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് ഓരോ ഗ്രൂപ്പിനും ഒരു പെർട്ടിക്കുലർ കൺട്രിയുടെ ഇൻവോൾവ്മെന്റ്. ലെറ്റ്സ് സേ വാട്ട് ഡിഡ് ജർമ്മനി ഡു ഇൻ ദ സെക്കൻഡ് വേൾഡ് വാർ. Another group is given a topic, what did France do in the Second World War. കുട്ടികൾ they conduct research എന്നിട്ട് അവർ വീഡിയോ ക്ലിപ്പിംഗ്സും പിക്ചേഴ്സും they upload it onto the Facebook page. The objective is to get maximum likes. So does this aid learning? Yes. What they have found is, you know, when teachers conduct tests after the whole exercise, students end up scoring more. And they find the whole experience extremely joyful and you know,
and interactive as well.
interactive and interesting as well. അപ്പം നമുക്ക് കുട്ടികളെ ഇതിൽ നിന്നും റെസ്ട്രിക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യൽ, കംപ്ലീറ്റ്ലി റെസ്ട്രിക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യൽ is not practical. It's going to probably we're turning the clocks back if we do that. Just imagine, you know, somebody from the 1940s, if you take the person and put them here, the kind of alienation the person would feel. That's what would happen to our kids if we take them off the of social media. But yes, regulation is required at optimal levels.
Yes, doctor. As you said, it's not practical to ban it completely because we want our children to be in the forefront of every development that's happening. And by banning it, I personally know of families where TV and social media is completely banned from their lives, from the parents' life as well as the children's lives. What is happening is these children are being taken off the track of the developmental race that the world is undergoing. And as you said, it's like you are making them primitive beings. They don't engage with those around them, their peers, and I don't think that's what we want.
Exactly.
Because we are robbing them of the advantages of social media in that case.
If I may give an example, you know, when we were away for our pilgrimage, our son was back in India. So what we did is, you know, we requested his classmates to actually take pictures of the notes and send it through WhatsApp. Okay, and just because that particular medium was there, he was able to keep himself up to date. A lot of moms have groups on WhatsApp where in case someone misses a class, they make sure that they take photos of the notes and pass it around. So it's really helping, you know, so you can't generalize that way.
Correct. So today we would be discussing about the ill effects of social media in our children's lives. In the upcoming episode, we would be discussing the positive effects. You heard me right, the positive effects of social media in our children's lives, plus the strategies that parents can adopt in order to help their children get the best out of social media. So just before we start off, we'll have a look at an introductory video. Can I request the studio to play the introductory video, please? Welcome back. Doctor, the first question to you. What are the ill effects of social media on the academic performance of children?
Interesting question. I'm sure the kids would say nothing at all, it doesn't
Absolutely.
affect performance at all. And I'm sure a lot of parents would say, it's affecting it adversely, you should be off social media. So these are all perceptions. So let's take a look at what actual research says. What
Right.
they've done is they've looked at the usage pattern of students. And for these students, they've looked at their academic performance. Has it come down? Has it gone up? And what they have to say is that if a child accesses social media once in 30 minutes during his study period, that means, let's say he's supposed to study for 3 hours, and every 30 minutes he accesses social media. It could
Right.
be for a few minutes, or it could be for a few seconds. Those students have actually found their academic scores coming down. Okay.
When you say accessing the social media, is that for his studies or
Regardless of what he uses it for,
Okay.
because we all use social media. When you open it for one particular purpose, you'll have 100 reasons to get diverted,
Notifications,
right?
true.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but then what studies also say is if you use it, let's say once in 2 hours, just for a few seconds, then there's no empirical data. That means research has not proven that using it probably once in 2 hours will not affect academic performance. But if you're using it once in 30 minutes, okay, then definitely those kids, the scores of those kids have been below the scores of the others who are not using it at all. This is empirical data. So to all the parents who are skeptical, we say yes, it has an effect. So better, keep your kids away from that at least while
For 2 hours
they are
at least,
studying. While they're studying, but Sunana, it's not about exam scores, because if you do poorly in a particular exam, you can always make up in the next one. Okay,
Right.
you can set your goals high, and then you can do well in the coming exams. I'm more worried about some more effects of using social media, which are long term and which are irrevocable. നമ്മൾ irrevocable എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ there are some changes that can happen to your brain which cannot be undone. These changes are permanent. And this is what I'm bothered about. And the first thing that I want to talk to parents is about addiction. Okay. Now addiction is a heavy word. You might be thinking, oh, drug addiction, liquor addiction. In fact, social media addiction is very similar. Or addict in the brain, there are certain parts of the brain that gets affected. Okay, which creates a craving. If that particular thing is kept away, he wants to access it again and again and again. That's an addiction, and then it becomes a habit. Now the same parts of the brain is activated when it comes to social media as well.
That's scary?
It is scary. Let's ask our viewers, once the show started, how many times would you have accessed
Checked
your
your
smartphone,
notifications,
when you come from Sharjah to Dubai, or Dubai to Sharjah in the evening, you find certain cars going left and right, and all these people have got brightened faces because they're actually using the phones, because it's an addiction. You can't keep yourself away from that. Now, why is this an addiction? Because every time you find something new, okay, something from your friends, something that you can engage with, you can have a conversation. But social media, the attractions is done something new, something from your
Close
peer
circle,
group,
yeah.
something that you're interested in, and something that you can engage with, and that activates the addiction centers of your brain. Even there is something called phantom vibration. Pala alkarum parim, I got a notification on the phone. Actually, when you go and look, there wouldn't be any notification. But these phantom vibrations, it's now a psychological concept where you feel as if you're getting notifications. So the addiction has reached that particular level. In the addiction ondulla problem endannu vechale, let's say it's a holiday and you don't have any constraints and you keep accessing the system continuously. You're hardwiring your brain to follow a pattern. നമ്മുടെ ബ്രെയിൻ it gets into habits very quickly. നമ്മൾ കൺസിസ്റ്റൻ്റ് ആയിട്ട് ഒരു കാര്യം ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നാൽ then it gets into a habit mode. അപ്പം നമ്മുടെ ബ്രെയിൻ we are teaching our brain to get diverted quickly, every few seconds to get diverted. അത് കാരണം let's say even when the child is sitting in class, or even when we are sitting and working, even if the device is not nearby, every few minutes or seconds the brain
Comes off, takes a deviation.
Exactly. It's like you're driving on the main road and then you take a sub road and go, and then come back again, and then take a sub road again. Then the problem is, you cannot pay attention to what's happening. your attention spans are less.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because your attention spans are less, your comprehension is less. You don't understand things quickly, and that reflects on your scores. Just imagine, people will not be able to take part in sports actively because they're getting diverted. People cannot study, and sometimes people cannot even have a conversation because you're not listening to what the other person is saying. So this is a huge calamity, and it's actually an addiction which is almost as dangerous as as substance abuse and drug addiction, particularly the effect on the attention span. Now I've got a small video to share with you, and this video elaborates on the ill effects of having addictions caused by social media. Can I request the studio to play that video, please?
With social media sites being used by 1/3 of the entire world, they've clearly had a major influence on society. But what about our bodies? Here are 5 crazy ways that social media and the internet are affecting your brain right now. Can't log off? Surprisingly, 5 to 10% of internet users are actually unable to control how much time they spend online. Though it's a psychological addiction as opposed to a substance addiction, brain scans of these people actually show a similar impairment of regions that those with drug dependence have. Specifically, there's a clear degradation of white matter in the regions that control emotional processing, attention, and decision making. Because social media provides immediate rewards with very little effort required, your brain begins to rewire itself, making you desire these stimulations, and you begin to crave more of this neurological excitement after each interaction. Sounds a little like a drug, right? We also see a shift when looking at multitasking. You might think that those who use social media or constantly switch between work and websites are better at multitasking, but studies have found that when comparing heavy media users to others, they perform much worse during task switching tests. Increased multitasking online reduces your brain's ability to filter out interferences and can even make it harder for your brain to commit information to memory. Like when your phone buzzes in the middle of productive work. Or wait, did it even buzz? Phantom vibration syndrome is a relatively new psychological phenomenon where you think you felt your phone go off, but it didn't. In one study, 89% of test subjects said they experienced this at least once every 2 weeks. It would seem that our brains now perceive an itch as an actual vibration from our phone. As crazy as it seems, technology has begun to rewire our nervous system, and our brains are being triggered in a way they never have before in history. Social media also triggers a release of dopamine, the feel-good chemical. Using MRI scans, scientists found that the reward centers in people's brains are much more active when they're talking about their own views as opposed to listening to others. Not so surprising, we all love talking about ourselves, right? But it turns out that while 30 to 40% of face-to-face conversations involve communicating our own experiences, around 80% of social media communication is self-involved. The same part of your brain related to orgasms, motivation, and love are stimulated by your social media use, and even more so when you know you have an audience. Our body is physiologically rewarding us for talking about ourselves online. But it's not all so self-involved. In fact, studies on relationships have found that partners tend to like each other more if they meet for the first time online rather than with a face-to-face interaction. Whether it's because people are more anonymous or perhaps more clear about their future goals, there's a statistical increase in successful partnerships that started online. So while the internet has changed our verbal communication with increased physical separation, perhaps the ones that matter the most end up even closer. Speaking of social media, we had you ask us questions on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Google+, and every other social platform we could find, and did a Q&A video over on ASAP Thought. So if you feel like getting some insider info on ASAP Science and behind the scenes, check it out with the link in the description. Got a burning question you want answered? Ask it in the comments or on Facebook and Twitter. We also finally got a P.O. box for all of you amazing science lovers who have requested to send us mail or other stuff over the years. And we'd love to hear from all of you, so feel free to use the address on the screen or in the description box. And subscribe for more weekly science videos.
Doctor, totally agree with you about the attention span. Research says that in the 1990s, the average attention span of a student was 18 seconds. And then by 2000, this fell to 12 seconds. And the latest research shows that the average attention span of a student is as low as 8 seconds, which has serious implications which we are not aware of, because as you said, we do not read a long passage fully now. We do not listen to instructions fully now. We do not convey what we want to say fully now. We forget details, dates and other details. So this in UK alone, it is said that 1.6 billion pounds of loss have been attributed merely to lack of proper concentration and poor attention span. So that's how grave a problem it is. We are not aware of it.
True, true. I hope parents are getting the gravity of the situation. You keep complaining that your child is not able to focus, your child is getting distracted, the child is not understanding what's happening in school, the child is not even attempting his answer papers completely. You know, they just leave a question midway. You know, these are issues that come to us. And you can attribute all this to one particular problem, which is social media usage. Because, you know, it's really the nature of the content on social media, you know, that does not require heavy concentration, and it is really creating that addiction which can cut down our attention span by dangerous levels. So take it off, regulate it, and you can find a huge change, or huge improvements in the academic performance of our children.
On that note, doctor, let's take a short break. We'll see you at the other end of the break.